Good morning, class. Today we are doing the cutest painting, and we're going to use oil pastels or crayons to resist our watercolor. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. And the first thing we need is a permanent marker, like a Sharpie, and anything that's round like a bowl. So I'm going to put my bowl in the middle of my paper. And then we're just going to go around it. And you want to be careful that you don't move your bowl. And you just want to go around the outside. Now, if for some reason you get marker on your bowl, you can actually use hand sanitizer and it'll come right off. So you can see I got marker on my bowl right here, and I'll use hand sanitizer to get that off. Okay. So we do have a little bit of an overlap issue down here where I just must have moved the bowl slightly, but we'll just incorporate that into our art because there are no mistakes in art. So what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of a curvy line through the middle of this piece. So I'm going to actually come here like this, and I'm going to go like this and like this. And what this is going to end up being is a sun and moon. So I'm going to draw a little smile across the bottom like this. And then on this side, we'll do an eye. And then on this side, we'll do an eye. And we've got our sun and moon. So on the sun side, I'm gonna do some pretty sun flares going up, just so that it's very obvious that it's a sun. And I know some of you have just been making clay suns in class, and so this will be really fun for you because it'll be a lot like what we've just done. So you can make your flares any way you want. And we're just gonna go all the way around like this. And I like to change mine a little just to add some interest so that they're not all exactly the same. And then on the moon side, we're going to, using our Sharpie, we're gonna draw some stars. And you can draw your stars any way you like. I'm gonna do some teeny ones and some big ones, and some teeny ones. Now I am using watercolor paper for this project because I want this to dry before I watercolor it. I don't want the Sharpie to leak everywhere. But I know a lot of you guys have older siblings, and this would be a fun thing for you to make with your older sibling. And they can draw the stars and the sun and moon, and then you can draw the coloring resist. So now we're going to take our piece that we've drawn, and we're gonna add some colors to it with our oil pastels or crayons. Crayons will work just as well as oil pastels here. So of course, I'm going to start with my favorite color, which is purple. And I'm just going to do some purple here, going up. We're gonna add some shading here. And then I will use some blue as well. But just to give it kind of a dark side of the moon. And then we'll use blue for the other side. And then just a little bit of shading over here. Okay, and you don't have to do it that dark because it's just going to add depth to our picture when we're finished. So now I will grab my blue and we're just going to color it in. And so what's going to happen is when we paint this, it's going to resist the colors that we put down, and it will add new colors from the watercolor. So, and I'm actually going to go over the purple and then the watercolor will come in and fill the rest of this in. So there's our moon side, and now we'll do our sun side. So for the sun side, I'm going to add some red over here on this side. Now you could just use yellow on your sun side, or you can just use orange. But the more colors that we add, then the more special this will look. So I'm just gonna add some red. I've got little pieces of pastel on there, just knock those off. And then I'm going to add some orange, and we'll work our way to the lighter yellow. And this is just such a fun way to color our sun in, give it some interest and excitement. And don't bother, you can move your paper around, you can do this upside down, anything you want. And then we're gonna come in with our yellow. And I'm picking a pretty bright yellow because it is the sun. Oh, it's got a little purple stuck on there. Take that off, that's from my last project, if you guys remember, where I broke a bunch of my pastels. All right, so we're gonna go right down this line and make sure we leave a little bit of a barrier here so that the watercolor doesn't leak over later. And then as you're coloring this in with your pastels, you're gonna see that your pastels are gonna pull some of that orange in as you're coloring it in, and that's totally fine. We kind of want it to blend together because the sun isn't half one color and half the other color. Okay, and then we're gonna take our yellow and we're gonna color in each of our sun flares out here. And then we can add in some red and orange to keep them interesting. So we're just gonna keep on going. Now, if this is your first class with us, if you're in the January class or the February class and you've not done too many of our art classes together, I try and do something different every week with different materials because I know that everybody is spread all over the world, and some places you can get some of these supplies and some places you can't. So I'll always let you know if there's a different way you can do it, and that's why this is not graded, because we wouldn't want anyone to feel like they couldn't do any of these projects. Also, as you're working through your projects of your schoolwork that are graded, if you come across one where you don't have those supplies, all you have to do is shoot me a message and I'll give you an alternate project that you can work on. So you can see as I'm going through, it's actually pulling in a lot of these colors. So we'll just go up through our red and orange, and it'll pull some of those colors into our sun sphere and make it really interesting and give it some depth. Just remember that this is art, and art is very forgiving. Even if I put a big black line through the middle of this, you can come up with a way to incorporate that, or to make it maybe a winter sun and a spring sun, or a winter moon and a spring moon. So now we're finished with the first step of our process, and we have a really cute little sun and moon. And they're both very tired and asleep. So I'm gonna push my oil pastels out of the way. And for our next step, we're gonna use some watercolors. Now, I know you guys have seen me use different watercolors, and you can use any kind you want. I have palettes of them. These happen to be liquid watercolors just because I wanna be able to get it really wet. But you can use anything you want. So I'm just gonna wet my brush here in my water glass. You can see it jiggling around up there on the top of your screen, and let some of that water out. And I'm going to grab some orange and yellow, and I'm just kind of blending them up. And I'm gonna thin them a little bit with some water. And then we're just gonna go and paint the whole side all the way down. And I want you to go back in and add more yellow, more red. Really get in there. And as you go, you can go right over the top of your painting. And we want to make sure that these colors are constantly moving. You can go all the way over to the center point between the two paintings. And then this is going to fill in all of our white spots as we go. So I'm just gonna get some more water here, thin and out. And I'm going back and forth between my yellow and my orange. Getting it thinner and thinner as we go. And we're just gonna go over the whole side over here. And while I'm at it, I'm just gonna wet this piece here. Really get that going. And I don't want a hard line, so I'm making sure this is a bit of a rough line. And I'm just using my water to pull this paint down. Now for this process, I know you guys have learned different watercolor techniques. You can use wet on wet, you can use wet on dry, you can use anything you want because you're the artist and you get to decide. So on our other side, we'll use wet on wet so you can just see what it looks like. Okay, and then I'm gonna go right here into the center and fill in these holes in our sun. It also kind of mutes out that Sharpie color of just plain black. It wets your chalk pastels or oil pastels and it makes them look really cool. I like this effect a lot. So as we're going through, just wetting our brush, picking up a little watercolor, and just keep going. There's no way to mess this up. Just filling in the holes. All right, looks great. So then I'll just clean my brush. And I'm actually gonna switch brushes just so you guys don't have to wait for me to clean everything. So I'm gonna grab this clean brush here. And you can see these are not expensive brushes I'm using. And that's on purpose because I really wanted you guys to feel like whatever you have at home is fine. So I'm going to wet this side. And you can see that because we used a permanent marker and not a water-based marker, our paper is not bleeding the marker around. If you use a water-based marker, this will bleed and you'll have gray everywhere. And if you're the artist and that's what you want is a gray night sky, go for it. If you want it to stay nice, crisp, and lovely stars, then you can even use a pen or a pencil. The pencil will probably bleed a little bit, but a pen won't unless it's a water-soluble pen, and they usually are not. So we've got our whole side wet here, and I'm just gonna show you the difference in the techniques. So I'm going to take my blue, and we're just gonna go across the top. And you can see these really kind of bleed into each other, into the night sky between the night and day. It's really lovely. And we're just gonna keep on going. And you can see some really neat effects as you're doing your wet on wet. I love how it kind of bleeds out and soaks together. And it really dims the stars a little bit, just like it would be at night. And then we can actually add more color in just a minute with some purple, of course, because that's my favorite color if you're new with us. I add purple in all of my paintings because I love it. And just like I'm always telling you guys that you're the artist, you're the artist. So if you love orange, use orange. If you like purple, use purple. Some of the most famous artists in history made blue humans and pink cows. You do whatever you want. So I'm just gonna blend out this center section, and then we'll add some more color into our night sky as soon as we color in our moon. So we've finished that, and I'm gonna go in here with just a little water into our moon, and it will just start filling in all these white spaces. Now you can see my paper's bowing up a little bit right here in the end, and that's because I didn't tape it down. I'm regretting that now, but you can tape it down at home with some painter's tape or washi tape, anything that'll peel off cleanly from paper. You can hear the traffic beeps outside of my house. Okay, so now I'm going to just add some water back onto my watercolor, and I'm going to just dab a little bit of purple in there, because otherwise I would not be Mrs. McDonald if I did not add some purple in. And I just love it. I like those little peaks of purple in there. And just a bit more. And then I'll add some blue back in just to blend this out. And then another fun thing you can do when you finish with your sun and moon is, if you didn't want to draw stars with a Sharpie, you could actually splatter paint them with white paint, as you've seen me do in our previous videos. So you can just use an old toothbrush and dip it in white paint, and you can kind of flick it to get some stars only on the moon side, and that would be really pretty as well. I think it would be really fun to add gold glitter on the sun side, just to give it more texture. So I'm just cleaning it up now. And I might add some more with my other paintbrush. I might add some more color on this side just to give it some more depth over here. All right, so there we go. Here is our beautiful watercolor. It looks great. Really like the way it turned out. I'm gonna move this over a little bit. Make some more room for that star. And it's pretty streaky. I actually did that on purpose because I like the way it looks. It just gives depth. You can make it more water and it'll just blend right together if you want. That's your choice. You can also take the streaks out with a little bit more water just to further blend it together. The more water you add, the more it'll just kind of blend into a beautiful abyss of night. And there we go, looks great. So there's our sun and moon, and I just love the way it looks. I think it turned out so great. Move my light so you guys can see better. Here we go. I hope you guys had a great time. And next up we have live help. And I know it's been a little confusing with the time changes, but our live help will be every Friday at 9 a.m. Dubai time. And I look forward to seeing you guys there. Have a great week and be creative.